At this very moment, the Senate is reviewing the sham FBI investigation into credible allegations of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. Our country currently has its eyes and souls glued to this nomination. Why? Because if he is elected, it sends a message about how we tolerate and excuse sexual assault of minors, and in society in general. Now, I'm not here to debate whether or not he's done it. He has. The point I want to make is that this is a systemic issue, and personally, a really important one to me. On one hand, I feel like as a society, we've come so far. And then something like this happens, and I'm reminded of how far we still need to go. Where to begin? Why does this keep coming up over and over again? Why statistically have 1 in 3 women in the US, likely more than that, experienced sexual assault in their lifetimes? As a nation, this is something that needs to be unpacked. So unzip your suitcases, because here we go. Thank God for recent #MeToo movement and for the other people who have come forward this past year and spoken openly about their experiences. Because honestly, from personal experience, it's not easy. And our society doesn't make it any easier. With all the blame, guilt, and shame that's placed on us, it becomes even more degrading and embarrassing. Instead of supporting those who speak up, we tend to persecute or attack them personally. As in most recent case where Trump mocked Dr. Ford at the campaign rally for not recalling every specific detail of her trauma. Talk about insensitivity. In addition, why is it okay to deny something until it's swept under the rug again? We need to learn how to be accountable for our actions. Less denial, more honesty. We have a past and some things that we might not be extremely proud of, but if that past has caused some trauma, it needs to be acknowledged. There needs to be an ownership and an apology. It might not heal everything, but it's a start. For me, a true American hero is one that is strong and honest and compassionate. We have to adjust the lens of the ideal American role model and what that looks like, especially for kids of the future. I'm sorry, Tony Stark, but I prefer my heroes to act with a little more compassion and empathy. However, the best and most direct way that we can address this specific cultural issue is by voting and electing more women into the political system to represent us, and to have more women in positions of power that will allow these issues to be addressed by people who have actually experienced them. Let's take the blinders off and begin to change this for all of us. We need to admit it's a problem, discuss it openly, and begin to heal this awful scar of our culture. Let's champion the women and the men who have bravely stepped forward so we can feel more comfortable doing the same. If you've been a victim of sexual assault, harassment, or want to speak to someone about your experiences, there is help. Please call the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-4673. My name is Ilsa. Thank you for watching Prompt.
Sarah Sanders might be on her way out, so we decided to take a look at her terrible track record of being a goddamn dirty liar. I'm Iffy, and we're calling BS on Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Here's a quick breakdown of some big old lies from the Queen BS. On June 29, 2017, when a CBS reporter asked whether Trump's tweets created a dangerous atmosphere, Sanders responded, "The president in no way, form, or fashion has ever promoted or encouraged violence. If anything, quite the contrary. And yet, Trump is on record encouraging violence. Most notably, in February 2016, Trump told a rally in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, "If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously, just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees." That was a lie. PolitiFact found 8 more instances of Trump promoting violence between August 2015 and March 2016. And then, just a few days after Sarah Sanders said Trump wasn't violent at all, he tweeted a gif of him violently body slamming an anthropomorphic CNN. Or take October 2nd, 2017, when facing questions about gun control after the Las Vegas massacre, Sanders said, "I think if you look at Chicago, where you had over 4,000 victims of gun-related crimes last year, they have the strictest gun laws in the country." Trump himself said the exact same thing 1 year earlier in the debate with Clinton. So I wonder where she got that. While it's true that Chicago leads the nation in gun violence, when it comes to whether Chicago has the strictest gun laws in the country, PolitiFact gave them the coveted pants on fire rate. In 2010 and 2012, 2 of Chicago's strict gun laws banning handguns and concealed carry weapons were repealed, leaving Chicago with less autonomy in restricting concealed carry than New York, Los Angeles, or San Francisco. Plus, Chicago is the kind kind of an obvious example of why gun control is important. Many of the guns used in Chicago come from neighboring states where gun laws are lax. So not only is it a lie, but it's intentionally misleading and proves the opposite point. Another case, on November 2nd of 2017, Sanders denied that Trump had ever called the US justice system a joke. This was just hours after Trump said in reference to the justice system, what we have right now is a joke. It's a laughing stock. Or in February 20th of 2018, Sanders said the president has not said that Russia didn't meddle. In fact, the New York Times found 8 instances where Trump tried to pivot the blame away from Russia. Most recently, in November 2017, Trump said, "Every time Putin sees me, he says, I didn't do that. And I really believe that when he tells me that, he means it." Of course you'd believe that because that's the only reason you're president right now. Sanders might want to get a job at Wetzel's Pretzels when she's done with the White House, considering how much she bends the truth. Sorry, Wetzel's, didn't mean to throw that shade at you. In one exchange, she was asked why Trump keeps saying the US is the highest taxed nation in the world. She replied, "We are the highest tax, corporate tax in the developed economy. That is a fact." The reporter replied, "That's not what the president said." Sanders replied, "That's what he's talking about." So it doesn't seem to matter what he's actually saying as long as Sanders can twist it into being kind of true, which by the way it isn't. The United Arab Emirates has a much higher corporate tax rate. I mean, she might as well become a Kanye stan, the way that she's like, "Nah, this is what they really mean. I mean, Cosby innocent, that was more saying like he's innocent of being human, right?" Sanders is also an expert at deflection. In the aftermath of the grab them by the pussy tape, Jake Tapper asked Sanders whether Trump would apologize to any of the women he'd assaulted. Sanders, lightning fast, responded, "Has Hillary Clinton apologized to the 4 American lives that were lost in Benghazi? Are we seriously still bringing up Benghazi?" Because that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about Benghazi the whole time. This isn't about grab them by the pussy. He actually meant grab them by the Benghazi. Deflection takes many forms. In press conferences, Sanders often avoids questions by calling them inappropriate, by saying she doesn't know the answer but will find out, by claiming she hasn't spoken with Trump about the matter, or by telling a joke about her kid. So has Sanders been on the record as lying? Yes, many times. And being a truly skilled liar involves more than just lying. It involves twisting, deflecting, stalling, and any number of other tactics. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is good at her job and definitely, unequivocally, pants on fire, a liar. What can we do about it? Keep calling her out on social media, to your friends, to your parents. Make sure when you hear someone repeating a Trump talking point that is blatantly untrue, call it out as a lie that it is. Because when your entire world is built on lies, it can't stand up to the truth. That's why we're calling BS on Sarah Huckabee Sanders. We hope your exit is swift and satisfying. Quit lying! It's bad for your health. Thanks for watching Prompt. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos every week.
The past 2 years have been monumental for finally holding sexual predators accountable. We've seen a string of high-profile figures and celebrities come under fire, including politicians. Recently, the longest-serving Speaker of the House in history, Republican Dennis Hastert, was sentenced to 15 months in prison and a $250,000 fine after it was discovered that he was serial child molester back when he was a wrestling coach, and that he was making shady payments to keep someone quiet about his sexual misconduct. And of course, there's Roy Moore. Roy Moore ran for the election to the U.S. Senate in Alabama as a Republican nominee. During his campaign, allegations surfaced of Moore's inappropriate behavior towards teenage girls. 8 of 9 women who accused him of sexual impropriety or assault said that they were teenagers at the time. Moore was in his 30s. They came forward after reporters found multiple women with the same accusations and witnesses who could back up the claims. Locals, including police, recalled that Moore was banned from malls for creeping on girls. Seriously, who gets banned from malls? Moore himself acknowledged dating teens as a man in his 30s. Most Republicans tried to distance themselves from Moore, eventually conceding that multiple women who accused him had credible stories. President Trump ignored the allegations against Moore for as long as he could. After all, Alabama hadn't elected a Democrat to Senate in 35 years. But as the race between Roy Moore and his Democratic challenger, Doug Jones, got too close for comfort, the president broke his silence. First, he took to Twitter, voicing his support for Moore. Then, he called Moore and gave him an endorsement. Luckily, voters weren't swayed. They elected Jones to Senate instead of a pedophile. But never forget, when it came down to it, the president endorsed an abusive pedophile. And that brings us to another abuser who hasn't faced any consequences at all, Donald Trump. During his 2016 presidential election, the infamous Access Hollywood tape became public. In it, Trump bragged about grabbing women by their private parts, kissing them without asking. He claimed that his celebrity status was the reason it was okay. This was Donald Trump himself. He literally boasted about committing sexual assault on tape. He also bragged about entering women's dressing rooms during beauty pageants. In 2005 interview with Howard Stern, he said that he walked into their changing rooms while they were naked, and because he was the owner of Miss Universe franchise, he could get away with it. Women from Miss USA and Miss Teen USA accused him of doing exactly what he said he did. At least 19 women have come forward with similar stories of Trump groping or kissing them without permission, but for some reason, there hasn't been a congressional ethics investigation into Donald Trump's history of sexual assault. I mean, women have literally accused him of the very thing that he's bragged about, and somehow Republicans don't have the courage to hold him accountable. How many powerful figures will continue to get away with things like this? Because the only people who have any power to confront them continue to do nothing. Is winning the only thing that matters to Republicans? Where is the sense of decency? Where is the sense of justice and morality? We have a president who has had multiple affairs, paid porn stars money to keep quiet about those affairs, bragged about abusing women and sexually molesting them, degraded them, and faced no consequence whatsoever. So this November, it's up to us to dish out some justice and hold the GOP and Trump accountable. Election Day is November 6th, but early voting begins well before that. Let's do this.